The American flag and the Gold Star banner had flown outside my home for exactly 387 days when Brenda Chambers knocked on my door. "That second flag needs to come down," she said, tapping her clipboard. "HOA rules clearly state one flag per household." I stood there, looking at this woman who'd never sacrificed anything more than a dinner reservation, demanding I take down the symbol of my son's ultimate sacrifice. "That's a Gold Star flag. My son died serving. I understand that's difficult, but rules are rules. We can't make exceptions." She adjusted her sunglasses. "You have 72 hours before we issue a fine." What Brenda didn't know was that I'd spent 20 years as a military family readiness officer, helping families navigate their rights. 20 years sitting with Gold Star families through their darkest days, and now this HOA president was treating Tyler's memorial like a lawn decoration violation. I watched her walk back to her white Lexus. Her own house flew a glittery "Happy Fall, Y'all" banner. Apparently, that didn't count as a flag. If you're watching from a military family, drop a comment. You understand what that flag means. Some mornings, those flags were the only reason I got out of bed. And Brenda Chambers had just crossed a line that no HOA president should ever cross. What happened next didn't just change our HOA. It taught our entire community what it means to honor those who gave everything. This wasn't about rules anymore. This was about respect. I closed the door and leaned against it, Brenda's words echoing in my head. Rules are rules. The house felt emptier than usual. Dan's recliner still sat by the window. 3 years since his heart attack, and I couldn't bring myself to move it. Tyler's football trophies lined the mantel, gathering dust I couldn't bear to disturb. "She actually said that to you?" My neighbor Jim Rodriguez stood at my back fence, pruning shears in hand. He'd seen Brenda leave. 72 hours to remove Tyler's flag. Jim's face darkened. That woman has no idea what she's messing with. But I was tired, bone deep, soul tired. At 58, I'd already buried a husband and a son. Fighting an HOA president over a flag felt like one battle too many. My phone buzzed. A text from Ashley Chen down the street. "Heard what happened. Coming by after school pickup." Word traveled fast in Meadowbrook Estates. 127 homes, and news spread quicker than morning coffee. I walked to my small home office, once Tyler's room. Maps of Afghanistan still covered one wall. His last letter sat on my desk, dated 2 weeks before the IED. "Mom, take care of yourself. The families here remind me why we're doing this." 20 years at Fort McCoy, I'd prepared hundreds of families for deployment, taught them their rights, connected them with resources, held their hands through the waiting. Military Family Readiness Officer, a title that meant being mom to every scared spouse and worried parent on base. Now I was the Gold Star mother, living on Dan's pension, $2,100 a month, plus 20 hours a week at the VA hospital, just enough to keep the house Dan loved, the one Tyler grew up in. I stared at the violation notice Brenda left. Official HOA letterhead. My hand shook as I read it again. Not from fear, from rage I thought I'd buried with my boy. The doorbell rang. Through the window I saw Ashley Chen with her 4-year-old daughter.
Time to put on the brave face again. But first, I walked to the living room window and looked at my flags. They flew at the proper height, proper distance apart. By the book, because that's how Tyler would have wanted it. Rules are rules, Brenda said. She had no idea how many rules I knew.
Ashley Chen bounced her daughter Lily on her hip as I opened the door. "Mrs. Sullivan, I'm so angry I could spit." "Come in, honey." I led them to the kitchen, where Tyler's photo in dress uniform watched from the wall. "Jim Rodriguez called Tom Peterson, who called me." Ashley set Lily down with some crayons. "Half the neighborhood knows already." Meadowbrook Estates wasn't fancy. 127 homes built between 95 and '05, mostly three-bedroom ranches like mine. Working families, retirees, a handful of military. Houses ran 140K to 190K, except for the corner lots like Brenda's. "When did she become president?" I asked, pouring coffee. 2 years ago, ran unopposed because nobody else wanted the headache." Ashley lowered her voice. "She's been on a power trip ever since. Remember the Nguyen family? She fined them for their vegetable garden, said it was agricultural use." Through my window, I could see Brenda's house, a $235,000 colonial with professional landscaping. That "Happy Fall" banner fluttered alongside decorative corn stalks and a scarecrow display that probably cost more than my monthly groceries. Her husband's some pharmaceutical executive. She does sales, too. Never had kids, never had family serve. She treats this neighborhood like her personal kingdom. "Mom knows stuff," Lily announced, coloring outside the lines with fierce concentration. Ashley smiled sadly. "My husband's deployment got extended, again. 10 months now." Her voice cracked. "Your flag means something to us, Mrs. Sullivan. It reminds me that if the worst happens, we won't be forgotten." A knock interrupted us. Reverend Michael Thompson stood at my door, his own weathered face full of concern. "Maggie, Jim told me what happened." He entered slowly, arthritis making each step deliberate. "That woman has no understanding of sacrifice." Michael had lost his son David in Vietnam, 1971. His Gold Star flag had flown for 50 years through 5 HOA presidents. "How'd you manage it?" I asked. "Different times. People understood respect back then." He accepted coffee gratefully. "But this Brenda Chambers, she sees everything as a threat to her authority." Through my window, we watched Brenda's husband arrive home in his BMW. They had the perfect house, perfect lawn, perfect life, untouched by loss. $45 a month we pay in HOA fees. For what? The privilege of being harassed? After everyone left, I sat at my kitchen table with the official notice. The letterhead made it seem more insulting somehow. Meadowbrook Estates Homeowners Association, in elegant script, like we were some gated community instead of a middle-class neighborhood in Cedar Falls, Iowa. Violation notice. Property, 1847 Oak Street. Violation. Multiple flags/banners exceeding permitted display. Section 4.3.2. Each household permitted one flag or banner. Action required. Remove additional flag within 72 hours. Fine schedule, $50 initial, $10 daily thereafter. My hands trembled. Not from fear, from fury I'd kept locked down for months. The careful control that got me through Tyler's funeral, through Dan's death before that, threatened to crack. The phone rang. "Mrs. Sullivan, this is Amy at the VA clinic. Are you still coming in tomorrow?" My part-time job, 20 hours a week helping other veterans navigate benefits. "Yes, I'll be there." "Good. Mr. Kowalski specifically asked for you. Says you're the only one who explains things so he understands." After hanging up, I pulled out my laptop. 20 years of military experience had taught me to document everything. I photographed both flags from multiple angles, noted the exact measurements, the proper spacing, the respectful display. Then I started searching. Iowa Code Chapter 35A, Gold Star Family Recognition Act. Federal law protecting Gold Star symbols. HOA limitations under state legislation. A text from Jim. "Emergency American Legion meeting tomorrow night. We need to discuss this." I walked outside for another look at my flags. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the yard. The Gold Star flag, simple white field with the gold star, caught the fading light. "Hi, Mrs. Sullivan?" My neighbor's 10-year-old son, Connor, called from his bike. "My dad says somebody's bothering you about Tyler's flag." "It's complicated, honey." "No, it's not," Connor said firmly. "Tyler was a hero. Heroes get flags." From the mouths of babes. As I turned to go inside, I noticed Brenda in her driveway, phone pressed to her ear, gesturing animatedly, probably rallying her supporters. In 2 years as president, she'd built a network of allies who appreciated her maintaining standards. Well, I'd spent 2 decades building networks too. Different kind, though. Families who understood sacrifice. Veterans who knew the weight of that gold star. Communities bound by loss and love. 72 hours, she'd said. The clock was ticking. By Wednesday morning, Meadowbrook Estates had split into invisible camps. I discovered this at Kowalski's grocery when Linda Peterson stopped me by the produce. "Maggie, this is ridiculous. Bob and I support you completely." She glanced around nervously. "But Brenda's telling people you're being deliberately defiant." "Defiant?" I set down the apples I'd been selecting. "By honoring my dead son?" "She's calling an emergency board meeting. Says if they allow your exception, everyone will want multiple flags. Next thing you know..." She trailed off, embarrassed. "Next thing you know what? We'll remember our dead?" The confrontation I'd been avoiding came that afternoon. Jim Rodriguez was trimming his hedge when Brenda marched over to him. I watched from my window as their voices carried across the yards. "You told Maggie to ignore the violation?" Brenda's tone could have frozen water. "I told her to fight it. Do you have any idea what a gold star flag means? I know it represents someone who can't follow simple rules." The silence that followed was deafening. Jim, who'd survived 2 tours in Vietnam, set down his shears very deliberately. "My God, woman! Her son died for this country." "And that's tragic, but it doesn't grant special privileges. If I let her have 2 flags, soon the Nguyen's will want their Vietnamese flag, the Gonzalez family will want their Mexican flag. Those aren't the same thing, and you know it. Rules are rules. That's what keeps property values stable." I couldn't watch anymore. But 20 minutes later, Ashley Chen knocked on my door, face flushed with anger. "She's going door to door," Ashley said, Lily coloring quietly at my table again. "Building support for consistent enforcement. Mrs. Patterson already sided with her." "Dorothy Patterson?" says she doesn't want the neighborhood turning into a flag festival. Can you believe it? That evening, my phone rang constantly. Tom Peterson offering legal help, Susan Mitchell saying she'd fly a gold star flag in solidarity, Rick Gonzalez warning me that Brenda was documenting other violations on my property. Apparently, my rose bushes were 6 inches too tall. But the call that broke my heart came from Janet Wilson, whose grandson was currently deployed. "Maggie, I want to support you, but—" her voice trembled. "Brenda's on the landscape committee. If I speak up, she'll find violations on my property. I can't afford fines on Social Security." "I understand, Janet. I'm so sorry. This isn't right." After she hung up, I sat in Tyler's room, surrounded by his maps and medals. This is what Brenda had done, turned neighbor against neighbor, used fear and regulations as weapons. A soft knock. Jim stood at my back door with Rev Thompson. "Mind if we come in?" Jim asked. "We need to talk strategy." "Brenda's divided this community before," Michael said, settling carefully into a chair. "Remember the playground equipment debate? But this is different. This is about who we are as a community. How many are with us? Openly? Maybe 15 households. Quietly? More. But people are scared, Maggie. Brenda's made it clear. Support you, and she'll find something to fine you for." I thought about Tyler, about the values he'd fought for. Freedom. Honor. Standing up to bullies. "Then we make it about more than just my flag," I said. "We make it about what kind of community we want to be." Jim smiled grimly. "Now you're talking like a soldier." Thursday morning, I turned my kitchen table into a war room. 20 years of military family advocacy had taught me that documentation beats emotion every time. "Iowa Code, Chapter 35A, I muttered, highlighting sections on my laptop. "Gold Star families shall be accorded special recognition." The federal regulations were even clearer. Public Law 534 authorized Gold Star family members to display the flag as a symbol of pride and remembrance, not decoration, recognition. My phone buzzed. Ashley, "Found something. Coming over." While waiting, I pulled out the HOA bylaws, all 47 pages of mind-numbing regulations. Section 4.3.2 read, "Each household may display one flag or decorative banner not exceeding 15 square feet." Decorative. There was the key word. I photographed other violations throughout the neighborhood. Brenda's own Happy Fall banner was clearly decorative. The Mitchells had both an American flag and a University of Iowa banner. The Petersons flew their Green Bay Packers flag every Sunday alongside Old Glory. Selective enforcement. I'd seen it on base. Regulations used as weapons against those who didn't fit someone's vision. Ashley arrived, breathless, laptop under her arm. "Maggie, look at this. I found 3 other HOA cases, Gold Star families who won against similar restrictions." She showed me news articles, a family in Texas, another in Florida. Each time, HOAs had backed down when faced with public scrutiny and legal precedent. "But there's more," Ashley continued, pulling up county records. The screen showed expense reports. My stomach tightened as I read. Landscape improvements, $8,400. But look at the contractor address. It's Brenda's street. Her house specifically. I drove by to check. New flower beds, decorative boulders, professional lighting, all paid by HOA funds. My hands stilled. This wasn't just about power, it was about money. Reverend Thompson arrived as we were comparing notes. "I've been talking to Gold Star families at church. 3 from neighboring towns want to attend the next HOA meeting." "They can't vote," I pointed out. "No, but they can stand witness. Sometimes that's more powerful." That afternoon, I met with Tom Peterson in his home office. As a retired contracts lawyer, he'd offered to review everything pro bono. "The HOA's on shaky ground," he said, adjusting his reading glasses. "The word decorative is key. Gold Star flags have federal recognition. They're not decorative by any legal definition." "What about the fines?" "They can issue them, but collecting is another matter. And if this goes public," he smiled thinly, "HOAs hate publicity. Bad for property values." "Brenda won't back down easily." "No, but she's made mistakes. This selective enforcement, the questionable fund usage, she's vulnerable." That evening, I stood at Tyler's grave at Cedar Falls Memorial Cemetery. The flag there flew freely, no HOA to restrict it. "I'm fightin', baby. Not sure I have the strength, but I'm fightin'." My phone rang. Jim Rodriguez. "Maggie, emergency Legion meeting tomorrow night. Word spread to the VFW and AMVETS. This isn't just about your flag anymore." "What do you mean?" "I mean, Brenda Chambers just picked a fight with every veteran in 3 counties. She wants to talk about rules. We'll talk about respect." I drove home feeling something I hadn't felt in months. Not quite hope, but purpose. At every stoplight, I saw American flags. Outside the bank, the post office, the elementary school, each one a reminder of what Tyler believed in. At home, his Gold Star flag caught the setting sun, that simple gold star glowing like a promise. 72 hours would be up tomorrow at 2 p.m. I was ready. Friday, 2 p.m. arrived with a knock that rattled my windows. Brad Stevens, Brenda's compliance officer, a 20-something who'd washed out of police academy, stood at my door with an envelope. "Official notice, Mrs. Sullivan." He couldn't meet my eyes. "The fine is now active." I took the envelope. "Brad, your uncle served in Korea, didn't he?" His jaw tightened. That's not relevant." "Everything's relevant when it comes to respect." He fled to his truck where Brenda waited, watching through designer sunglasses. She gave me a small wave, victorious. The emergency HOA meeting was scheduled for Monday, but Brenda wasn't waiting. That evening, she sent a neighborhood-wide email. "Dear neighbors, some residents believe personal tragedies exempt them from community standards. This sets a dangerous precedent. If we allow one rule violation based on emotion, where does it end? Monday's meeting will address uniform compliance for all residents. Signed, Brenda Chambers, HOA President." My phone exploded with texts, but it was Ashley's call that mattered. "She doesn't get it," Ashley said, voice thick. "My husband called today, lost another soldier in his unit, 22 years old. These flags aren't decorations, they're promises that we remember." Saturday morning brought unexpected support. Cars drove slowly past my house, honking in solidarity. Veterans from the Legion meeting had spread the word. A news van from KWWL appeared. then left when I declined to comment. I wasn't ready to go public yet. But Brenda escalated further. A second notice arrived, this time about my roses, then my garbage can placement, then the excessive wear on my driveway. 4 violations in one day. "She's building a case," Tom Keterson warned over the phone. "Multiple violations make it harder to claim targeting." That afternoon, I found Jim Rodriguez and 3 other veterans installing something in my front yard. "Solar lights," Jim explained, "for your flags. Federal flag code says they should be illuminated at night." "Jim, I can't afford." "Already paid for. Legion Emergency Fund."
Reverend Thompson pulled up as they worked. "Maggie, I've got 17 Gold Star families coming Monday. Channel 7 wants to cover it." "I don't want a circus, Michael. It's not a circus. It's accountability." Sunday, after church, Brenda made her biggest mistake. She approached me in the parking lot, voice syrupy sweet. "Maggie, this has all gotten out of hand. I'm willing to forgive the fines if you'll just comply. Think about it. Is a piece of cloth worth all this trouble?" The conversation stopped around us, fellow parishioners frozen, waiting. A piece of cloth? My voice carried farther than intended. "That's what you'd think this is about? I'm trying to be reasonable." "Reasonable? You called my son's memorial flag Clutter. You fined me for honoring his sacrifice. And now you stand here in God's parking lot calling it a piece of cloth?" Brenda's face flushed. "Don't make this about religion. This is about rules." "No, it's about power. Your power. And you're about to learn the difference between authority and respect." She stalked to her Lexus, but not before several people turned their backs on her. In a small town, that meant something. Monday morning came gray and drizzly, perfect weather for a fight. I dressed carefully, Tyler's photo on my dresser, Dan's wedding ring on my right hand for strength. The phone rang. Jim Rodriguez. "Maggie, you need to know, Brenda's husband tried to talk her out of this. Word is he's embarrassed by the whole thing." "Not embarrassed enough to stop her." "No, but there are cracks in her support. The Pattersons are wavering. The Mitchells removed their Hawkeye flag in solidarity with you." I looked out at my flags, rain-soaked but flying proud. The Gold Star flag's white fabric made the stars seem to glow even in the gloom. A text from Ashley. "Parking lot's already filling up. Veterans everywhere. Brenda's in her office. Blinds closed." 3 hours until the meeting. I sat at my kitchen table, Tyler's last letter before me. "Mom, tell everyone back home we're making a difference. Every flag we see reminds us why we're here. For family, for honor, for each other." I folded the letter carefully, put it in my pocket. Time to make a difference of my own.
2 hours before the meeting, I couldn't stay in the house. The walls felt like they were closing in, filled with too many ghosts. I drove to Cedar Falls Memorial Cemetery, where Tyler lay next to his father. The rain had stopped, leaving everything fresh and clean. I knelt between their headstones, my knees soaking through on the wet grass. "Dan, I wish you were here," I whispered. "You'd know what to say. You always did." Tyler's stone read, "SSG, Tyler Daniel Sullivan, beloved son, proud warrior, forever 28. Below it, the gold star symbol was etched deep in granite. Here, no one questioned its right to exist. "He would have been 29 next month," I said aloud. "I know. Ashley Chen stood behind me, her daughter Lily clutching a small American flag. "For the soldier," Lily said simply. Ashley knelt beside me. "Maggie, I need to tell you something. When David deployed, I was terrified. Every day, every news report, every late-night phone call. You helped me through it. You and Tyler's flag." "How?" "Because it reminds me that if the worst happens, we won't be forgotten. Our sacrifice won't be dismissed as a personal tragedy or an inconvenience to someone's property values." We sat in silence, watching Lily trace the letters on Tyler's stone with her tiny finger. I heard what Brenda said. "A piece of cloth, like your boy's life was just fabric and thread." My phone buzzed. A text from my supervisor at the VA. "Take tomorrow off if you need. We're all with you." I couldn't afford to miss work, but I also couldn't afford to break. Not now. Driving back, we passed Brenda's house. She was in her driveway, talking animatedly with two board members. Even from the street, I could see her gestures, sharp and angry. "She's scared," Ashley observed. "She should be." At home, I found an envelope taped to my door. Not HOA letterhead, just plain white. Inside, a handwritten note. "Mrs. Sullivan, I'm Dorothy Patterson. I sided with Brenda at first because I was scared. But I was at church yesterday. I heard what you said. My brother served in Vietnam and never came home. We didn't have Gold Star flags then, but we had memory. I'll be speaking at the meeting tonight. Forgive my cowardice. Dorothy." I sat on my porch, letter trembling in my hands. Behind me, through the window, Tyler's dress uniform photo watched over everything. He'd worn that uniform with such pride. "Mom," he'd said at his deployment ceremony, "this means something. Don't let anyone tell you different."
Jim Rodriguez appeared at my fence. Coffee shop's buzzing. Brenda's been there all afternoon, working her phone. She knows she miscalculated. What's she saying? That you're using your grief to manipulate people? That you're making the neighborhood into a political statement? Political? I laughed, but it was hollow. Since when is honoring the dead political? Since it threatens someone's control. As evening approached, I put on my best black dress, the one from Tyler's funeral, pinned his picture inside my jacket pocket, over my heart, added Dan's wedding ring to my right hand, Tyler's dog tags hidden beneath my collar. My phone rang. Tom Peterson. "Maggie, quick update. The county clerk will be there tonight. Officially, she's just observing. Unofficially, she's very interested in those HOA financial discrepancies Ashley found. It's not about the money, Tom. No, but it's about integrity. Brenda's been preaching rules while breaking them herself. That matters." At 6:30, I stood before my mirror, 58 years old, widowed, bereaved, tired beyond measure, but still standing. A car honked outside. Jim Rodriguez, in his Legion uniform, ready to drive me to face whatever came next. "Ready?" he asked as I got in. I looked back at my house, at the two flags flying proudly in the evening light. Tyler used to say, "Mom, courage isn't about not being scared. It's about doing what's right anyway." Smart boy. The best. As we drove toward the community center, I saw flags in windows throughout the neighborhood, small ones, homemade ones, some just printouts taped to glass. A quiet revolution of remembrance. "Win or lose tonight," Jim said softly, "you've already changed this place." Maybe, but all I wanted was to keep my flags and be left alone with my memories.
Sometimes that's the hardest fight of all.
The Meadowbrook Community Center parking lot was packed. Jim had to park 3 blocks away. As we walked, I saw license plates from Waterloo, Marion, even Des Moines. Word spread fast, Jim muttered, counting cars. Inside the lobby, the sight stopped me cold. 40, maybe 50 people in various military uniforms. Dress blues, Army greens, Marine Corps red. Gold Star mothers wearing pins with their children's faces. Vietnam vets in leather vests covered with patches. "Mrs. Sullivan?" A woman my age approached me, wearing a Gold Star pin. "I'm Carol Benson from Waterloo. Lost my daughter in Iraq, 2007. We're here for you." Behind her, more families nodded, each carrying their own grief, their own gold stars. Reverend Thompson appeared through the crowd. "Maggie, there's something you need to know. Channel 7 is set up outside. So is the Cedar Rapids Gazette. But there's more. Brenda's in the boardroom, and she's rattled. Half her support didn't show." Ashley pushed through, Lily on her hip. "The Pattersons are here. So are the Nguyen's. Remember, she fined them for their garden? And Maggie, Brad Stevens resigned as compliance officer an hour ago." "Brad? His uncle from Korea? He's here, in uniform. Had some words for his nephew about respect." Tom Peterson joined us, briefcase in hand. "The county clerk's already inside. She's very interested in those financial documents. Oh, and Brenda's husband? He's sitting in the back row, alone." The main room was standing room only. Brenda sat at the board table, her usual perfect composure cracked. Her hands shuffled papers repeatedly. The other 4 board members looked uncomfortable, especially with TV cameras setting up. "5 minutes until we start," someone announced. I found my seat in the front row, surrounded by my coalition. Jim on one side, Ashley on the other. Behind us, Gold Star families from 3 counties, veterans spanning 5 wars, neighbors who'd found their courage. Dorothy Patterson caught my eye from across the room. She nodded once, firmly. A young man in marine dress blues leaned forward. "Ma'am, I didn't know your son, but I knew men like him. This isn't just about a flag. It's about remembering why they served." I touched Tyler's dog tags through my dress. All these people, here for a principle, here because Brenda Chambers thought rules mattered more than respect. The clock hit 7. Brenda tapped her gavel with shaking hands. This meeting will come to order." Her voice, usually so commanding, sounded small in the packed room. The coalition was ready.
"We're here to discuss uniform flag compliance," Brenda began, avoiding eye contact with the uniformed veterans. "The rules clearly state—" "Point of order." Tom Peterson stood. "This meeting was called to address Mrs. Sullivan's violation. Let's be specific." Brenda's jaw tightened. "Fine. Mrs. Sullivan has refused to comply with Section 4.3.2, displaying multiple flags in violation of—" "I'd like to speak." Jim Rodriguez rose, his Legion cap in hand. "Madam President, I'd like to educate this board about Gold Star families. These are parents, spouses, children of those who died in service. That flag is recognized by Congress. It's not decorative. It's sacred." "Mr. Rodriguez, emotional appeals don't change—" "I'm not finished." His Marine Corps bearing silenced her. "You called it a piece of cloth? You mocked a mother's grief?
You dishonor every person who ever served. Dorothy Patterson stood next. I was a coward last week, but seeing you persecute Maggie while your own house flies multiple decorative banners, that's selective enforcement. Those are seasonal decorations. So are flags only violations when poor people fly them? Mike and Gwen interrupted. You find us for vegetables, but ignore your friends' violations? The room stirred. Brenda shuffled papers frantically. Let's discuss the real issue. Ashley stood, voice steady. $8,000 in HOA funds spent on your personal landscaping. Gasps rippled through the crowd. The county clerk leaned forward, taking notes. That's defamation, Brenda sputtered. Those were community improvements. To your property exclusively? Tom Peterson pulled out documents. I have the contracts here. Your address, your signature. Board members shifted away from Brenda. One whispered urgently to another. Finally, I stood. The room quieted. My son Tyler died 13 months ago in Afghanistan. He was 28. That flag isn't about defying rules. It's about remembering sacrifice. If you can't understand the difference between a gold star flag and a Halloween banner, you shouldn't be leading anything. I looked directly at Brenda. You turned neighbors against each other, used fear and fines as weapons. But you made one mistake. You thought grief made me weak. It didn't. It made me remember what my son fought for. Dignity, respect, standing up to bullies. How dare you? No! How dare you? How dare you mock his memory? How dare you call his sacrifice an inconvenience to your authority? The room erupted in applause. Veterans stood at attention. Gold Star mothers wept openly. Brenda's face went white. I call for a vote on the violation. I move to table pending investigation of financial irregularities, one board member said quickly. Seconded. The vote was 4-1. Brenda sat alone at the table as board members distanced themselves. Meeting adjourned, the vice president announced over Brenda's protests. The room exploded in celebration, but I just stood there, suddenly exhausted. We'd won this battle, but the war for respect, that would continue long after the cameras left.
The aftermath came swiftly. Tuesday morning, Brenda Chambers submitted her resignation as HOA president via email, a terse 2 sentences. By Wednesday, the board voted unanimously to exempt Gold Star flags from the one-flag rule. It's more than that, Tom Peterson told me over coffee. They're amending the bylaws. Military honors, religious displays, cultural flags during heritage months, all protected now. The financial investigation moved to the county attorney. I didn't care about prosecuting Brenda. I just wanted her gone. Thursday afternoon, I was weeding Tyler's memorial garden when a car pulled up. Richard Chambers, Brenda's husband, stood at my gate looking exhausted. Mrs. Sullivan, I owe you an apology. I set down my trowel, waited. I should have stopped her months ago. My wife, she lost perspective, forgot that rules serve people, not the other way around. He paused. We're listing the house. That's not necessary. It is. She made this neighborhood toxic. Maybe somewhere else she'll remember what community actually means. He glanced at my flags. I'm sorry about your son. He deserved better than this. After he left, I sat on my porch, watching both flags ripple in the breeze. Cars still drove by, honking support, but the circus was ending. Jim Rodriguez appeared at my fence. Board elected me interim president. First act, apologizing to everyone Brenda targeted. Just lead with respect, Jim. Roger that. That evening, Ashley brought Lily by with a crayon drawing, 2 flags, and a stick figure holding hands with an angel. "For you," Lily announced, "so the soldier knows we remember." I taped it to my refrigerator next to Tyler's last photo from Afghanistan. The flag still flew. The neighborhood was healing. And somewhere, I hope Tyler knew that his mother had stood her ground, not with weapons or violence, but with the quiet courage he'd taught me. Sometimes that's the bravest fight of all.
6 months later, Meadowbrook Estates felt like a different place. The November wind whipped through the neighborhood, but now it carried the sound of children playing, neighbors talking over fences, life returning to normal. I stood at my window, coffee in hand, watching Jim Rodriguez help the Nguyens expand their vegetable garden. No more violation notices. No more fear. "Mrs. Sullivan?" A knock at my door. Carol Benson, the Gold Star mother from Waterloo, stood with the younger woman. "This is Jennifer. She just lost her son in Syria. I told her about you." We sat at my kitchen table, where so many battles had been planned. Now it hosted grief support, shared understanding. Jennifer clutched her son's photo, hands shaking. "They gave me the flag," she whispered, "but I don't know. Where do I put it? How do I—" "You put it where you can see it," I said gently, "where it reminds you he lived, not just that he died." After they left, I walked through the neighborhood. Dorothy Patterson waved from her garden where she'd planted yellow ribbons among the roses. The new HOA board had established a memorial garden in the common area, a place for reflection, not regulation. Ashley Chen jogged by, pushing Lily in a stroller. "David's coming home next month," she called. "Safe and sound." Thank God. Not every military family would carry my burden. At the memorial garden, I found Reverend Thompson sitting on the new bench, his own Gold Star pin catching the light. "Thinking about David?" I asked, sitting beside him. "Every day, but also thinking about community, what Brenda never understood. Rules without compassion are just control." A news van pulled up. Another anniversary piece about the flag fight that changed Cedar Falls. I turned away. The story had gone viral, sparked national conversations about respecting military families. But for me, it remained deeply personal. That evening, I attended the HOA meeting, something I'd never done before the conflict. The new HOA board operated differently. Transparent budgets, open discussion, respect for diverse voices.
"Motion to establish a hardship fund," Jim announced, "for neighbors facing unexpected challenges." It passed unanimously. The fund would help families struggling with medical bills, job loss, emergencies. Tyler would have loved that. Neighbors helping neighbors. Walking home, I passed Brenda's old house. A young military family had bought it, drawn by our veteran-friendly community. Their American flag flew proudly, no fear of arbitrary enforcement. At home, I sat at my computer, writing my monthly letter to Tyler, a habit I'd started after his death. "Dear Tyler, your flag still flies, not because I want to fight, but because people remembered what matters. You always said courage was contagious.
You were right. The neighborhood kids ask about you now. I tell them about the boy who loved baseball, who rescued injured birds, who served with honor. The soldier part matters, but so does the rest. I'm okay, baby. Still tired, still grieving, but okay. Helping other families helps me. Funny how that works. Dad would be proud of how I stood up. You both would. I hear you sometimes, in the wind, in the flags rustling, saying, "Good job, Mom." Until I see you again, Mom. I sealed the letter, placed it in Tyler's memory box with the others. Outside, the porch light illuminated both flags, the American flag he served, the gold star flag that proved he did. A text from Jim. Documentary filmmaker wants to interview you. National Peace on Gold Star Families. I set the phone aside. Maybe later. For now, I just wanted to sit with my flags, my memories, my quiet victory. To the audience, if you're a Gold Star family, know that your sacrifice is seen and honored. If you're not, find one in your community, ask their story, say their soldier's name. Remember that every flag represents a life given in service, a family forever changed. I touched the window, watching the flags dance in the darkness. Tyler Daniel Sullivan, forever 28, forever my hero. Drop a comment about your hero, I whispered to the night. They deserve to be remembered. The flags flew on, proud and free, as they should, as they always would. In a small neighborhood in Iowa, respect had won over rules, love had conquered fear, and a mother's determination had reminded a community that some things are sacred, some battles are worth fighting. Even when you're tired, even when all you wanted was to be left alone with your grief and your flags, sometimes, especially then.